Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar holds strategic energy talks with U.S. Secretary at Florida summit. Persad-Bissessar, showstopper at Shield of Americas, conducts 8 bilateral meetings. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar held several high-level bilateral meetings in Florida yesterday, including critical discussions with United States Secretary of Energy Chris Wright on energy security and the potential reopening of the Bilateral refinery, advancing strategic economic objectives while representing Trinidad and Tobago at the historic Shield of the Americas summit. Persad-Bissessar was among select leaders invited by President Donald Trump to the summit in Doral, Florida, where she was the only woman head of government present. Following Trump's announcement of the Americas Counter-Cartel Coalition, the Prime Minister engaged in an intensive schedule of bilateral diplomacy that Public Utilities Minister Barry Patterath described as placing her in demand among international counterparts. Energy security discussions with Secretary Wright. The meeting with U.S. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright represents crucial follow-up to discussions initiated at last month's CARICOM summit in St. Kitts, where U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio referred Trinidad and Tobago to the Department of Energy for talks regarding energy security and the Bilateral refinery. The Prime Minister, accompanied by Foreign Affairs Minister Sean Sobers and Public Utilities Minister Barry Patterath, engaged in substantive discussions with Secretary Wright on Trinidad's energy sector priorities and opportunities for U.S. partnership in revitalizing the country's refining capacity. The Bilateral refinery, closed under the previous PNM administration in 2018, has been a focal point of the current government's economic revitalization strategy. U.S. technical and financial partnership in reopening the facility could provide significant economic benefits and enhance Trinidad's energy security. 8 bilateral meetings signal international demand. Beyond energy discussions, the Prime Minister held bilateral meetings with U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, addressing trade and economic cooperation opportunities. It had been a very hectic day. The PM had at least 8 bilateral engagements and is currently on her way to another one right now, Patterath told the Sunday Express yesterday. Our Prime Minister is in demand here in Doral. It signals the level of interest our foreign policy under her leadership has generated and the willingness of other nations to partner with us. Mercosur application advanced with Paraguay. The Prime Minister also engaged in bilateral talks with Paraguay President Santiago Peña regarding Trinidad and Tobago's application to join Mercosur, the South American regional economic and trade bloc created to promote free trade and economic integration. Foreign Affairs Minister Sobers confirmed Trinidad and Tobago submitted the application to Paraguay's Ministry of Foreign Affairs in its capacity as pro tempore president of Mercosur. The application represents strategic expansion of Trinidad's economic partnerships beyond CARICOM, diversifying trade relationships and market access. Mercosur membership would provide Trinidad access to a market of over 260 million people across South America, creating opportunities for Trinidad's manufacturing, energy, and service sectors while positioning the country as a bridge between Caribbean and South American economies. Showstopper performance draws international attention. Minister Patterath praised the Prime Minister's performance at the summit, saying she has elevated Trinidad and Tobago internationally while remaining focused on advancing national interests. As the lone female head of government, the Prime Minister was a showstopper. She definitely stood out. The heads and delegates found her to be very engaging, witty, charming, and, most importantly, forceful in advancing Trinidad and Tobago's interest in national security and energy matters, to be specific, Patterath stated. There were moments of ohs and ahs as delegates commented on the Prime Minister's stunning appearance in white and her willingness to work the room. It was a phenomenal experience, but also a very proud moment to witness how appreciated and admired the Prime Minister is among her international counterparts, Patterath added. Trump's introduction added color and attention. Patterath said President Trump's introduction of Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar during summit proceedings certainly added color and attention to the Prime Minister, highlighting her unique status as the only woman leader present and signaling the importance the U.S. administration places on the Trinidad-U.S. partnership. Working lunch hosted by Secretary Rubio. After President Trump delivered his remarks announcing the America's Counter-Cartel Coalition, he departed for Dover Air Force Base, Delaware, to attend the dignified transfer of 6 U.S. troops killed in a drone strike in Kuwait, one day after the U.S. and Israel launched their military campaign against Iran. Secretary of State Marco Rubio hosted the assembled leaders for a working lunch after Trump's departure. The lunch provided opportunity for continued discussions on regional security cooperation, while also giving Kristi Noem, whom Trump appointed as special envoy for the Shield of the Americas, after removing her as Homeland Security Secretary, the chance to make her debut in her new role. Strategic implications. The intensive schedule of bilateral meetings reflects the elevated international profile Trinidad and Tobago has achieved under Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar's independent foreign policy approach. The discussions with U.S. energy, commerce, and trade officials position Trinidad to secure concrete economic benefits from the strengthened U.S. partnership. The energy discussions with Secretary Wright are particularly significant given Trinidad's role as a major energy producer and the potential for U.S. partnership in revitalizing Petrotrin and advancing cross-border gas development with Venezuela under newly issued OFAC licenses. The Shield of the Americas Summit represents diplomatic success on multiple dimensions: formalization of security partnership through the Anti-Cartel Coalition, advancement of energy cooperation discussions, progression of Mercosur membership application, and demonstration of the Prime Minister's effective international engagement. Minister Padaratha's characterization of the Prime Minister as a showstopper who was in demand underscores the elevated profile Trinidad has achieved through strategic partnership with the United States and independent foreign policy positioning that prioritizes national interests.